turn, 3 left, uphill.
Hello and welcome to A Tribe Called Cars. My name is Ben Griffin and today I'm going to sing you a song. No, I'm just kidding. What I am going to do though is tell you about Dirt Rally 2.0, 2.0, whatever you want to call it. The force feedback issue that a lot of you guys have been asking about, a lot of you guys have been talking about. It's appeared on the Codemasters forums, the GT Planet forums, Reddit forums, and various other places. So I thought, because I've had the game since the 12th of Feb, that maybe I should shed some light on this. And the reason I can is because I have the Thrustmaster TSXW steering wheel and I have a Fanatec CSL Elite. So I have two. Sadly I don't have a Logitech, but a lot of you guys have the G29 and what's the Xbox, the PS4 equivalent, whatever it is. Can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, that wheel seems to be very common and a lot of people are reporting the same thing. So what is the actual problem? Well, basically, force feedback is designed to work as basically haptic feedback. It's meant to provide you more than the controller's vibration. So essentially, if you drive into something, it really shakes. If you steer at speed, obviously physics in real life would make the steering difficult, and so you'd have to fight the wheel. And that is something that the motor provides. Obviously it generates torque. I think the wheel I have is something like 9 Newton meters, which even used to get that in a car, which is ridiculous. It also vibrates in various different ways to basically imitate the surface you're on. So tarmac would feel smoother than gravel, and the transition from gravel to mud should, in theory, feel different, and some games are very good at this. Obviously you'll never get the replication of G-forces and the fear of dying, but you do get that feeling of being tense. You know, you're on a good run, you're ahead of your own time, don't mess it up. So of course the pressures can be quite similar, or at least enough to make it very satisfying and realistic enough. But for some reason in Dirt Rally 2.0 it's just not really there at all. In fact, when I plug my Thrustmaster steering wheel in, it's as if the game was trying to compensate, because I had so much difficulty turning the wheel. It was just too heavy. It meant I couldn't counter steer in time. It meant I couldn't drive out from a forest if I've gone off the circuit, or any of that kind of stuff. It was just awful, really unenjoyable, really frustrating, and basically made a rally simulator much less satisfying. Since then, I have dialed all of the various feedback things down to 65, and I still can't really feel the road. Even if you whack that up, say the suspension setting to 100 or whatever, you're still not really getting much. And in fact, Codemasters has officially confirmed this, because it put out a tweet saying that some of you guys are experiencing a force feedback FFB issue and they're looking into it. So that means hopefully there is a patch on the way. But what can you do in the meantime? Well, as I said, if you've got a Thrustmaster, chances are it's probably being too heavy right now when you steer, and that's not a good thing. It actually makes the game way more difficult. So trust me when I say you should dial it down to around, I don't know, 70 to 60. I've got it on 65 and that seems pretty good. Also make sure you have the latest firmware for your steering wheel, so plug it into PC, run the software. In the case of Thrustmaster, I think you can press a button and it will find the latest firmware. And I read a story recently that says about maybe 2 or 3 days ago or something, there was a new driver. So it doesn't seem like it's done too much, but it may help pave the way for when Codemasters does something in the game, and at least you know you have the best situation possible. So go and find the best drivers, check that you're up to date. And then in the game, under options, I think it's input, you can calibrate your steering wheel. Now you should do this because you want it to be centered, and obviously it's just a bit weird for your brain if you are slightly off-center and you're never centering well when you're driving straight. So although you can get used to it, and obviously rally drivers do when they've damaged their car and stuff, let's let the game do the weird steering quirks if you crash, and not when the car is undamaged. So calibrate your wheel. It's possible by turning the wheel a small amount instead of the exact amount it's telling you. So if you halve the distance it's asking you to do, or at least halving on the second rotation option, then you can have 540 degrees of motion instead of the 900 or 1080 or whatever you would normally have. Now this is good and bad. Good because it means you need to steer less to steer more in the game, and that means if you want to save a bit of oversteer, or get yourself out of a ditch, it's a lot easier. You don't need to sort of cross your hands over and fully rotate the wheel round and round and then bring it all the way back before you accelerate. On the flip side, if you have more degrees of rotation, then obviously you have more accuracy. You can control the amount of steering a little bit better. That's not to say you can't adapt, and at 540 a lot of people do very, very well, but it's a little more realistic obviously if the wheel is rotating more, and that's translating to a more realistic amount of movement from the steering in the car itself. Now I've kept it to the 900 or 1080, can't remember which, and I really like that, but you can definitely see why some people would want to do 540, particularly if you have a steering wheel with a bottom that is flat, because they are not great for when things get a bit drifty. There's nothing to really grab there, and it's quite uncomfortable to sort of 180 a wheel and try and grab the other. Yeah, it's just not great. It's not ideal, so I wouldn't recommend it, depending on the type of steering wheel you have. Now, I didn't get Dirt Rally 1 at launch, but I've heard that that game also had a force feedback issue, so fingers crossed this is something that will be fixed maybe day one. I mean, the launch is, at the time of making this video, tomorrow, on the 26th, same day as Trials Rising, if you're interested. I know I am. So maybe this video will be utterly pointless, and if that's the case, then great, because I'd rather all of you guys who have a wheel and been really excited to play the game can do so without having to look for my video and try and make things better. However, if Codemasters hasn't, feel free to complain, because companies tend to make more of an effort when they see people are not very pleased. And if they do fix it, then of course you can discuss here what wheel you have and what settings you use and why, because there are many options, and to be honest, they're not going to make massive amounts of difference. I think if the steering is light enough and you practice enough, then you can get away with having slightly suboptimal or certainly not perfect settings. And in some ways it's something that is quite personal to you. Obviously if you're a rally driver and you get into a Group B car, the mechanics could slightly adjust the feel of various things, so in many ways that's highly accurate. Equally though, if you got into the car and weren't allowed to change it, then you would adapt, and so as long as you haven't got some sort of weird setting that is impeding your ability to drive fast, then things are good. But what I would say is that having driven and been a passenger in some rally cars and many different cars, I would say that video games seem to think, or at least steering wheel companies and developers seem to think, that making something really heavy makes it more realistic, but that is not the case at all. When a car isn't moving, yeah, fine, it's difficult to park. I learnt to drive in a car with no power steering. It was a pain in the arse, but it did make you a bit stronger. However, when you're moving, they aren't massively heavy at all. I've not driven a Group B car, but you can watch the videos. They are not anywhere near as difficult to steer as my default Thrustmaster settings made it. So, have a bit of a play around, and unfortunately I wish I could tell you a way to solve the current issue, but as I said, hopefully Codemasters will do so very quickly, and then this video is pointless, and I've wasted 10 minutes of your time. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. There will be some more Dirt Rally 2 content coming soon. I'm finally starting to really click with the game, and I got into the top 10, and to be fair, there aren't that many players on the game yet, but there are a couple of races that I think you guys would like to see, because they are properly rapid, and maybe you can challenge me and see if you can win. And I'll be doing my Forza Horizon 4 Epic Ultimate Guide Part 1. That will be this week, I promise you. It's been a long time, but I really needed to think about it and make sure it's correct and work out how to do it in a way that helps as many people as possible. Anyway, I wish you a wonderful week. Thanks for watching. Bye.
6 left of a crest long, into 5 left of a crest, 50, 4 right long, into 5 left, keep left of a 50, 4 right, opens, into 4 left long, opens of a crest, 100, 5 right long, opens.